Hello friends, AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink, back with another Christmas card. This is using a brand new just released set. I'm not 100% sure on the details as of doing this voiceover, because for once in my life I'm actually working ahead a little bit. Shocker. This is the Winter Flower stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, and I love it. If you've been following me for a while, you know. Large florals, always a favorite. And sentiments. Can never have enough sentiments. So if you combine large florals with a big variety of sentiments, all over it. Love it. Chef's kiss. Perfect. So, like this great big poinsettia image. Ugh. So I have Arches watercolor paper in my MISTI and the stamp. And I'm stamping it a couple times, really taking the time to ink it up well with the clear embossing ink and getting the pressure on there, because this watercolor paper especially, it's not super textured, but it's just textured enough that, you know, when you've got large images like this or images with a lot of detail, it's worth taking an extra couple minutes to double stamp things just to make sure, you know. So I ended up coating it with Simon's cream embossing powder. I originally was going to do gold because it's Christmas cards, but I really love the cream embossing powder with watercolor paper. It's almost like a faux no line sort of a look, because the embossing powder really matches the watercolor paper versus white embossing powder shows up a bit more. It's kind of just, these are just the random thoughts going through my head while I'm making this. So either one would look great though. You know, large images like this, you don't even necessarily need to color them. You could metallic heat emboss this, like metallic heat embossing on like a deep red cardstock, and then add sentiments and you're good. I got ideas, man. Anyway, I did this and then I did watercolor because, again, large florals and watercolor is so fun. So I'm using my Mijello Mission Gold watercolors. I'll super sped this up in editing. The only like tips I guess I could offer is I'm using two brushes. The type of brush is kind of irrelevant, but this was a tip I picked up from, and I've talked about her a million times. It's Debbie Hughes, like Lime Doodle Design is the name of her blog. Highly recommend. She does just beautiful watercolor. I could watch her make cards all day. So this was something I picked up from her, is I have one brush that I'm using to pick up the watercolor and put it onto my image. And then my second brush has nothing but clean water on it. And I use that to pull it out. And that's where you get like the darker and the lighter areas. And it just works more smoother in the sense of time. You know, you're not having to pick up watercolor, apply some down, rinse off your brush, pull out the color. So having a couple brushes works great. And like I said, it doesn't really matter what kind of brushes. These are some Da Vinci Cosmo Top that I've had for a while. Other really good ones are the Silver Black Velvet that I've talked about. I also use my little cheapo like Ranger and Tonic brushes a lot. Royal and Langnickel Zen brushes. Those are great too. These are, I would say these Da Vinci Cosmo Top are mid to higher level. And price wise, they're more mid. Quality wise, I'd say higher level. Of the ones I've tried. I don't know. I'm biased though when it comes to watercolor brushes, because like over my years of doing coloring, watercoloring, I used to be an esthetician and do nails. Like I spent a lot of money on some good quality brushes. So yeah. Anywho, enough about the brushes. I just went along painting all of these images, all of the greenery. And then I don't know if these are supposed to be like kind of berries. I was originally going to color these as berries, but instead I was like, they kind of look like seed pods. You know, you see floral arrangements at Christmas time and they'll have the seed pods and that little bit of brown kind of brings it out. So I thought, why not? And the brown actually inspired the rest of the card, so it worked. Anyway, did all those, and then I went in with a second layer on the poinsettia because I wanted to just intensify that color a little bit. And as always, if I had had more time, I would have done more of these because I really wanted to do one like more pink. Like I was aiming for more pink with this, but it still ended up like skewing kind of red, which is fine. But I love how poinsettias, like, you know, there's so many colors now, you know, like those deep, deep reds, the pinks, the whites, all of it. Love. Anywho, I let everything dry. I added a ton of splatter, as is tradition. I added just a little bit of the kind of red mixture I'd made up. And then I used my little palette that I have here that I've been using in a million videos. It's just got some white gouache and a little bit of perfect pearl powder kind of mixed together. It's a little Franken mix. And I added that, and then, you know, you can never have too much splatter. I also pulled out my Gansai Tambi Starry colors. This is just my little go-to palette that I have had for years now. And added some gold splatter. Because, yeah, you just can't. You can't. I have yet to, you know, in my opinion, there's every once in a while I'll get a comment from someone, they're like, oh, I don't like the splatter. Well, if you don't like splatter, you don't have to do it, you know? I do. I love it. I enjoy it. I don't know. It's a weirdly therapeutic thing for me. I don't know. I think just the messy aspect of it, I enjoy. I don't know. So anyhow, I did all of that. And then I pulled out this. This is the gold-hearted 6x6 pack from Tonic. I've been hoarding this for a while. I can't even remember when I ordered this, like months ago. And I've been hoarding it. I love all of Tonic. You guys have seen me use a million of them. Tonics, like metallics and glitter papers and foil and all those things. I highly recommend. And these little 6x6 packs are nice because you get a bunch of sheets in different, you know, finishes. So I used one of the gold ones and die cut this large Joy wafer die from it. And then I pulled out one of the sentiments from that winter flower set and messed it up my first time. So I flipped the cardstock around and pulled out my little Simon grid transparency. This is kind of a must-have thing. Like, mine's filthy, but I need to just keep it out on my desk all the time. Especially now, I've mentioned this in more recent times, like in the last year or two. I have astigmatism in my eyes now. So my eyeballing skills are nowhere near as good as they used to be. Like, I used to just be able to get everything straight, you know, all the time. Not so easy now, especially when I'm sitting and filming, because I'm literally looking down, you know? So I used that grid line sheet to line up the sentiment. And I only inked up the first 2 words of it. It was the wishing you. And that I did use my gold embossing powder on. So melted that with my heat tool. And then I'm going to trim that down with my paper trimmer. And off camera, I had die cut that Joy wafer die from some white cardstock. Because, again, I like having my word die cuts stacked. I love the dimension. And it's also become almost like a little bit of an OCD thing with me. I struggle not to do it, even if it's more work or really finicky. It's like I have to. So, yeah. And yet I'll see other people's cards and you can tell they didn't stack their sentiments. And it's like, oh, that looks really nice. Like, good for them. Anywho, I stacked mine. I trimmed down my background, my watercolor background. Everything is dry by this point. And I trimmed that down to slightly smaller than my card base, which will be an A2 card. And then I kind of figured out where I was going to place my sentiments. And everything, this was just luck that everything just kind of fit sort of perfectly there along the bottom corner. So I adhered the stamp and heat emboss sentiment and then my die cut sentiment over it. And then once those were adhered into place, my card base is going to be that same brown cardstock. So it's cut to 4 1/4 by 11. So I'm going to score it at 5 1/2. So this will be a top folding A2 size card. And as always, like, this always just depends on my mood. I have no problem having dark card bases and leaving the inside like as is, like I'll stamp or whatever, add sentiments. Sometimes I'll do things like this, like add a lighter piece of cardstock to make it easier to write. Again, it's just whatever my mood is. So this time I did the lighter cardstock and I inked up that large poinsettia image with Simon's Fossil ink that I'm kind of obsessed with lately. And then I had to pull out the grid sheet again so I could line up the sentiment. I'm using more sentiments from that set. Seriously love. There's like so many buildable sentiments. I love it. And I love the font use too. So the main, like the happiest of holidays image, I inked up with Simon's Evergreen ink. And then the little companion sentiment, I inked up with the dark chocolate ink, which coordinates with the cardstock. So inked that up, stamped that. And then I was like, ooh, this is, you know, you could do some clean and simple cards. Just stamp that poinsettia, not even heat emboss it. Just stamp it in a lighter color of ink. And then stamp the sentiments or heat emboss the sentiments. You know, add a bit of splatter if that's your thing. And you could do like a whole bunch of cards. That, you know, So yeah, but this was for the inside of my card because gotta have something on the inside. So I adhered that panel to the inside of the card, and then I'm going to adhere this panel to the outside of the card. Just using my craft tacky glue to get everything adhered into place. Once this is adhered, like a broken record, as always, you could leave it here, but I gotta add some bling. Gold bling would look fabulous. Pearls, like gold pearls, or just like ivory pearls would look really pretty. But as I'm going through all my bling, I've got these peridot sparkles, crystals, whatever you want to call them, from Studio Katia. I've used these a million times, and the name always throws me off. I always have to Google it before I do my voiceover. I'm like, how do you pronounce that again? Anyway, the green really went nicely with that lighter green foliage, so it's just kind of meant to be. But again, any color would work nicely, or just even like the clear iridescent crystals would look beautiful. But I had these, so I'm going to adhere these into place with just little dabs of craft tacky glue, picking these up with my little Studio Katia embellishment wand. So once these are all adhered into place, I'm going to pair this card with a coordinating dark chocolate envelope, and that's going to finish it off. So you can kind of see the texture on that gold cardstock. There's a bit of shimmer with the splatter. I couldn't really pick that up with the lights. And then the bling and stamping, and there's just large image. Love. So as always, I will have a link below the video to my blog post. I will have links to all the supplies I used. There are picture links over on my blog if you want to check that out. All that info will be directly below the video. Thank you all so much for watching, subscribing, thumbs upping, commenting, all of it. I very much appreciate all of you, and I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye!